The Sunday dinner table felt like a courtroom where I was perpetually on trial. My mother set down the roasted chicken with the same theatrical flourish she used when delivering her weekly assessments of my life choices. "So Rachel finally did it," Mom announced, beaming at my older sister. "A real house. 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, granite countertops. In Westbrook Heights, no less." Rachel's smile was pure triumph. She'd worn her designer blazer to Sunday dinner, the one she bought specifically for occasions that required looking successful. "The mortgage approval came through on Friday. We close next month." "That's wonderful, sweetheart," Dad chimed in, reaching across the table to squeeze Rachel's hand. "Your mother and I are so proud. A real investment in your future." I continued cutting my chicken, measuring each movement. 5 years of family dinners had taught me that reactions only fueled the fire. "Chloe, you're still in that apartment downtown, right?" Aunt Linda asked with practiced concern. "The one you've been renting for, how long now?" 3 years, I replied evenly. 3 years of rent money just disappearing," Mom sighed, shaking her head. "If you'd chosen a stable career instead of that computer thing, you might be able to afford something by now." Rachel leaned back in her chair, wine glass in hand. "Not everyone can handle the pressure of real estate investment, Mom. Some people are just more comfortable with simpler arrangements." My cousin Derek snorted. "What is it you do again, Chloe?" "Something with websites." "Commercial real estate technology," I said. The same answer I'd given for 3 years. The same answer no one ever asked about beyond the initial response. Right, Derek waved his hand dismissively. "One of those tech jobs that sounds impressive but doesn't actually produce anything tangible." Mom reached over and patted my hand with manufactured sympathy. "Honey, there's no shame in renting. Not everyone is cut out for property ownership. It takes a certain level of financial sophistication and stability." I thought about the property deed I'd reviewed that morning. First National Bank's headquarters building, 8 stories of glass and steel in the heart of the financial district. Purchase price, $8.2 million. Current owner, Meridian Properties LLC. Managing partner, me. "Rachel's mortgage is through First National, isn't it?" I asked casually. "Yes." Rachel's excitement bubbled over. "They gave us an amazing rate. 3.2% fixed for 30 years. The loan officer said our application was one of the smoothest she'd processed this quarter." "First National is where serious people bank," Dad added. "Not like those online banks or apps you probably use, Chloe." I smiled and took a sip of water. "First National is an excellent institution. Maybe they could help you understand financial planning," Aunt Linda suggested. "They have those free workshops for people trying to build credit and learn about budgeting." The conversation shifted to Rachel's house hunting saga. The bidding war she'd won, the inspection contingencies she'd negotiated, the moving timeline she'd meticulously planned. Everyone at the table contributed their admiration and advice. I was merely audience as always. As dessert was served, Mom circled back to her favorite topic. "Chloe, your father and I worry about you. At your age, Rachel was already climbing the corporate ladder. You're 29 now and we still don't really understand what you do all day." "I acquire and develop commercial properties," I said. Rachel laughed, that dismissive sound she'd perfected in high school. "You mean you help people who actually own buildings? Like property management?" "Something like that," I replied. The following Tuesday, I arrived at First National Bank's headquarters at 8:45 a.m. The building's limestone facade caught the morning sun beautifully. I'd fallen in love with it the moment my acquisition team had presented the investment opportunity 18 months ago. The lobby renovation had cost $320,000, but the updated design had increased the property's value by nearly $600,000. The marble floors gleamed. The new lighting system highlighted the Art Deco architectural details that had been hidden under decades of fluorescent fixtures. My phone buzzed. "Mom," in the family group chat, "Rachel's meeting with the designer today to pick out paint colors. So exciting to see her building equity instead of throwing money away on rent." House 2 hearts. I pocketed my phone and headed to the elevator. The quarterly ownership meeting was scheduled for 9:30 a.m. on the 8th floor. The executive conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. My business partner James was already there reviewing documents. "The bank wants to discuss extending their lease," he said. They're offering 3% above market rate for a 10-year commitment. Their loan division is performing well, I noted, thinking of Rachel's mortgage approval. The longer lease makes sense for both parties. At 9:25, the bank's executive team began filing in. CEO Marcus Whitfield entered last, his silver hair and tailored suit projecting exactly the gravitas you'd expect from someone running a century-old financial institution. "Miss Torres," he greeted me warmly, shaking my hand. "Thank you for hosting us. I hope we can reach an agreement that benefits everyone." What Marcus didn't know yet was that Rachel had invited the entire family to her mortgage celebration lunch at the bank's ground floor restaurant. Mom had texted about it incessantly. "Rachel wants to celebrate where it all started. The loan officer is even joining us. Isn't that wonderful? You should come, Chloe. Maybe you'll get inspired to take homeownership seriously." I'd confirmed my attendance. After all, my meeting would be finished by noon. The lease negotiation was professional and straightforward. First National wanted stability. I wanted responsible tenants who paid on time and maintained the property. By 11:45, we'd reached an agreement. 10 years at 4% above market rate, with scheduled rent increases tied to inflation. "Excellent," Marcus said, signing the final document. "First National is proud to remain in this building. Your management has been exemplary, Ms. Torres." "I appreciate the partnership," I replied. "This building is important to the city's financial district. I'm committed to maintaining its historic significance while modernizing for future needs." As the executives gathered their materials, Marcus paused. "Are you staying in the building for lunch? Our downstairs restaurant has been getting excellent reviews since you approved their lease renewal." "Actually, yes," I said. "I have a family obligation at noon." The restaurant was already buzzing when I arrived at 12:05. Mom had reserved a large table by the window, prime real estate for being seen by other diners. Rachel sat at the head of the table, literally glowing with pride. "Chloe." Mom's surprise was genuine. "You actually came." "I was in the building," I said simply, taking the only empty seat, at the far end naturally. Rachel launched into her presentation before I'd even picked up the menu. The house's square footage, the school district ratings, the projected appreciation rate. Aunt Linda and Derek nodded enthusiastically. Dad beamed with paternal pride. "And this is Jennifer Bryant," Rachel gestured to a professional-looking woman in her 40s. "My loan officer. She made everything so smooth." Jennifer smiled politely. "It's my job to help clients achieve their homeownership dreams." Jennifer was just explaining how First National only approves mortgages for qualified buyers, Mom said with a pointed look in my direction. "People with stable income, good credit, real jobs. Property ownership requires serious financial credentials," Dad added. "It's not for everyone." I ordered a salad and let the conversation wash over me. Rachel described her furniture shopping plans. Mom debated paint colors. Aunt Linda shared decorating tips from HGTV shows. Then Marcus Whitfield appeared beside our table. "Miss Torres," he said warmly. "I hoped I'd catch you before you left." The table fell silent. Everyone stared at the silver-haired CEO standing beside me. "Mr. Whitfield," I acknowledged. "Is everything finalized with the lease extension?" "Absolutely. My team is processing the paperwork now." He turned to address the table with practiced charm. "I hope I'm not interrupting a celebration. Miss Torres was gracious enough to host our quarterly meeting this morning." Mom's face showed confusion. "Host your meeting?" "In the executive conference room upstairs," Marcus continued. "We're very fortunate that Miss Torres has been such an excellent property owner. This building is the crown jewel of First National's operations." Rachel's fork clattered against her plate. "Property owner?" Marcus's smile was genuine. "You didn't know? Miss Torres owns this building. Meridian Properties acquired it 2 years ago, one of the most significant commercial real estate transactions in the city that year. $8.2 million if I recall correctly." The silence was deafening. Jennifer Bryant's eyes widened with recognition. "Wait, Meridian Properties? You're that Chloe Torres?" I processed "Oh my God." Her face flushed. "I processed your sister's mortgage application last week." "Small world," I said mildly. Marcus was oblivious to the tension. Miss Torres has been exceptional. The building improvements alone have been remarkable. The lobby renovation, the HVAC upgrades, the security system overhaul, all while maintaining the building's historic character. First National couldn't ask for a better landlord. Dad had gone pale. Own this building? Yes, I confirmed. Along with 6 other commercial properties in the metro area. Meridian manages a portfolio worth roughly $43 million. Rachel found her voice, though it came out strangled. That's impossible. You work in tech. Commercial real estate technology, I corrected. I develop software that analyzes property investment opportunities. That's how I identified this building as undervalued. The technology helped build the capital for acquisitions. Marcus checked his watch. I should let you enjoy your lunch. Miss Torres, my assistant will send over the signed lease documents by end of business today. Thank you again. He nodded to the table. Enjoy your meal, everyone. After he left, nobody moved. Mom's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. Aunt Linda stared at her water glass. Derek had frozen mid-bite. Jennifer Bryant cleared her throat awkwardly. I should mention, Ms. Torres's company owns the building, which means she's technically First National's landlord. I probably should have made that connection when I saw the address on your application, Rachel, but Torres is a common name and I never thought. You never told us, Mom finally whispered. You never asked, I replied. Every Sunday for 3 years I've said I work in commercial real estate. No one ever wanted details. Rachel's carefully constructed composure cracked. You let me go on about my mortgage, about my house, when you own this? Your house is a wonderful achievement, I said genuinely. Homeownership is important. I'm happy for you. But you, Dad struggled for words. $43 million in properties? Current portfolio value. The actual equity is lower once you account for loans and leveraged investments. But yes, roughly that value. Aunt Linda finally spoke. All those dinners where we talked about you needing financial advice. I have excellent financial advisors, I assured her. They help manage the portfolio and tax implications. Jennifer gathered her things hastily. I should get back to the office. Rachel, congratulations again on your approval. Miss Torres, it was enlightening to meet you formally. After she fled, the table remained frozen in horrified silence. The waiter arrived with our entrees. Nobody touched their food. Why didn't you tell us? Mom's voice carried a note of betrayal. I tried, I said calmly. Multiple times. 3 years ago when I closed on my first property, I mentioned it at Sunday dinner. Dad said it sounded risky and suggested I focus on getting a real job first. Last Christmas when I acquired the Riverside complex I brought it up. Rachel said I was probably exaggerating and changed the subject to her promotion. We thought you were talking about small-time stuff, Dad protested weakly. You thought I was unsuccessful, I corrected. There's a difference. You assumed because I didn't fit your definition of success, because I work in technology, because I rent my apartment, because I don't wear designer blazers to family dinners, that I must be struggling. Rachel's face had turned red. You let me brag about my mortgage while you literally own the bank building. You earned your mortgage approval, I said. That's legitimately worth celebrating. Your house is a good investment in a solid neighborhood. None of that changes because of my portfolio. But you embarrassed me, Rachel hissed. You made me look foolish. I sat quietly and ate my dinner, I replied. Like I do every Sunday. You made assumptions. That's not my responsibility. Mom dabbed her eyes with her napkin. Everyone at this table heard. Everyone knows we didn't know our own daughter owns an $8 million building. Actually, the building is worth about $12 million now, I said. Property values in the financial district have increased significantly. That's why First National wanted the extended lease. Derek had been silent but now spoke up. So when you said you were comfortable with simpler arrangements, I meant that I prefer living in a luxury apartment where someone else handles maintenance while I focus on managing commercial properties worth exponentially more, I finished. Yes. Aunt Linda set down her fork. We've been patronizing you for 3 years. Yes, I agreed simply. The rest of the lunch was painful. Stilted conversation punctuated by long silences. Rachel left early claiming a headache. Mom and Dad barely touched their food. Derek suddenly remembered an appointment. As we stood to leave, Dad pulled me aside. Chloe, we never meant to make you feel dismissed. Yes, you did, I said not unkindly. You just didn't realize I had anything worth dismissing. That's actually worse. What do we do now? His helplessness was almost pitying. That's up to you, I said. I'll keep coming to Sunday dinners if you want me there. I'll keep being civil and polite. But I'm done trying to make you understand or respect what I do. I have business partners, clients, and colleagues who already do that. Over the following weeks, the family dynamic shifted uncomfortably. Mom stopped offering financial advice. Dad asked tentative questions about real estate investing that showed he'd been Googling commercial property management. Rachel stopped coming to Sunday dinners entirely. Aunt Linda sent an apologetic text. I'm sorry we didn't listen. You deserved better. Derek unfriended me on social media. A small loss I didn't mourn. The real consequence came a month later when Rachel called, her voice tight. My loan officer said she's leaving First National. Taking a position with a competitor. She mentioned that Meridian Properties is known in the industry. That people respect your portfolio. Jennifer Bryant is excellent at her job, I said. She'll do well anywhere. She said I should be proud to have a sister who built something substantial. Rachel's voice cracked. She said most people just talk about real estate investment, but you actually did it. Your house is still a good investment, I reminded her gently. I know, Rachel said quietly. I'm sorry, Chloe. For all of it. For not asking. For assuming. For making every dinner about comparing our lives when I didn't even know what yours looked like. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet. But it was acknowledgement. Sometimes that's where rebuilding begins. Sunday dinners are quieter now. More questions, less judgment. Mom asked last week if I'd help her understand commercial property taxes. Dad wants to tour one of my buildings. I said yes to both. Not because they've earned it, but because I'm successful enough that their opinions no longer define my worth. The building still stands in the financial district. 8 stories of glass and steel, worth $12 million and climbing. Every time I drive past, I think about that Sunday dinner. About Rachel's mortgage celebration in the restaurant I leased to the tenant in the building I own. Success doesn't require an audience. But sometimes having witnesses is deeply satisfying.